When I was younger, my Aunt Lorraine was always the strange one in the family. She lived in a decaying Victorian house at the edge of town, a place that looked like it had been plucked straight from a Gothic novel. Her house was cluttered with oddities, shelves packed with antique dolls, glass jars containing dried herbs and other unidentifiable things, and books whose titles I couldn't pronounce. Aunt Lorraine's eccentricities were a family joke, but something about her always made my skin crawl. It wasn't just her house, it was her. She had a habit of staring too long, her eyes glassy and unblinking, as if she was peering through you into some unseen realm. She spoke in cryptic phrases and never quite answered a question directly. Her laughter would erupt suddenly, loud and shrill, at moments that weren't remotely funny. "Oh, that's just Lorraine being Lorraine," my mom would say, dismissing my unease. For years, I avoided her house. But one October, when I was 23, I made the mistake of agreeing to house it for her. Aunt Lorraine claimed she was going on a spiritual retreat, her words, not mine, and needed someone to watch over her precious collection. I should have said no, but guilt tripped me into agreeing. She didn't have children or a partner, and my mom insisted it would be a good opportunity to bond. The moment I stepped inside her house, I regretted it. The air was thick with the scent of mildew and lavender, an unsettling combination that made my stomach turn. The dolls seemed to watch me as I passed, their glass eyes glinting in the dim light. "Thank you, dear," Aunt Lorraine said as she handed me a long, heavy key. Her fingers lingered on mine, cold and damp. "There are a few rules." "Rules?" I asked, my voice tight. "Yes," she said, her lips curling into a grin that showed too many teeth. "First, do not touch the mirror in the attic. Second, always leave a pinch of salt on the windowsills at night. And lastly," she leaned in close, her breath sour, "if you hear someone whispering your name, do not answer." I laughed nervously, waiting for her to tell me it was a joke, but she just patted my shoulder and walked out the door. The first night was uneventful. I busied myself tidying the kitchen, trying to ignore the way the shadows seemed to ripple along the walls. When I went to bed, I double-checked the locks and left the salt on the windowsills, just to humor her. The second night, I heard the whispers. I was in bed, staring at the cracked ceiling, when I heard it, Mara. My name, drawn out in a thin, airy voice that didn't sound entirely human. I bolted upright, my heart hammering in my chest. The room was silent again, but the sound had been unmistakable. "It's just the wind," I told myself, though the windows were shut tight. I pulled the blankets over my head and forced myself to sleep. On the third day, I decided to explore the house. Most of the rooms were cluttered with Aunt Lorraine's usual oddities, but one door was locked, the attic. I remembered her warning about the mirror and felt an inexplicable urge to see it. I convinced myself it was curiosity, nothing more. After searching through her drawers, I found the key. The attic stairs creaked under my weight as I climbed, the air growing colder with each step. The room was dimly lit by a single bulb, and in the center stood a massive, ornate mirror. Its frame was carved with twisting vines and strange symbols, the glass so polished it looked like a pool of black water. I stepped closer, and for a moment, I thought I saw something move within the reflection. Not my reflection, something else. A flicker of motion deep in the glass, like a shadow sliding just out of view. My stomach nodded, and I backed away, slamming the attic door shut behind me. That night, the whispers returned, louder and more insistent. "Mara, come to me." I clamped my hands over my ears, but the voice seemed to seep into my skull, rattling around like a trapped insect. Then I heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate, coming up the stairs. I froze, my breath hitching as the steps grew louder. They stopped just outside my bedroom door. I didn't dare move. For what felt like hours, I sat in the dark, clutching the blankets, until the first light of dawn seeped through the curtains. The next morning, I called my mom, begging her to let me leave. "It's just for a few more days," she said, brushing off my panic. "You'll be fine." Desperate, I decided to confront the mirror again. I don't know why. Maybe I thought facing it would make the fear go away. When I reached the attic, I found the mirror covered with a heavy black cloth. I hesitated, then yanked the cloth away. This time, the reflection wasn't mine. It was Aunt Lorraine. She stood in the glass, her head tilted at an unnatural angle, her eyes wide and glistening. Her lips moved, but the words didn't match the movement of her mouth. "Help me," she whispered, her voice cracking. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over a stack of boxes. The mirror began to shake, the glass rippling as if it were liquid. A low hum filled the air, growing louder until it was a deafening roar. Then the mirror shattered, the shards flying outward like a swarm of angry bees. I threw my arms over my face, bracing for impact, but not a single piece touched me. When I opened my eyes, the mirror was whole again, the attic silent. That night, I didn't sleep. The whispers turned into screams, and the footsteps roamed the halls all night long. I stayed locked in my room, the salt now piled high on every windowsill. At one point, the doorknob rattled, as if someone was trying to get in. On the final day, I packed my things and left without waiting for Aunt Lorraine to return. I didn't care about her rules or her house, I just needed to get out. As I drove away, I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw her standing in the upstairs window, watching me with that same too-wide grin. I've tried to forget what happened, but sometimes late at night, I hear the whispers again. And when I look in my mirror, I swear I see her reflection, smiling back at me.